have for collage, and I will go through some of the materials that we will use. I have a metal mesh, some copper, foil, tissue paper, thicker paper, glossy, newspaper, and some organic material, a plant, flower, and a leaf. Oh, and beads. Let's not forget the beads. To save time, I prepared a panel with many layers. When you do collage, it's good to have quite a few layers so you can push stuff into the wax without getting to the wood. Let's start with the thicker, glossy paper. I heat up the wax. You have to work faster with collage. Put the paper down, push it down. You can heat it up so you're sure that it's well attached to the wax. Now let's use some of the tissue paper. It will act differently because it's thinner. Again, let's heat up the wax. Push it down. If I want to preserve the color of the tissue paper, I don't do anything else. But notice this. Because it's thin, if I heat it up, it will take on the wax. And you have to consider that. Now let's use some newspaper. And you can cut by hand so you have an uneven edge, or you can use regular scissors and have a straight edge for variety, or get yourself some of these patterned scissors. They are very handy and you get interesting patterns. Now the newspaper is going to work pretty much like the tissue paper. Push it down. If you want the newspaper to stay as is, you don't do anything else. Or you get some of the wax into it. What you can also do is cover some of the edges, which is something that I like to do, so I don't show the lines so much. So I get a color similar to the one that's underneath. And I can cover some of the paper and just let it show a little bit, or just the edges. You can be very creative with collage. If you want contrast, use a different color. like everything else, you have to fuse it. If you want to cover completely, you need to use an opaque color. This just disguises it somewhat. And creates more interest. Now, if you want to cover, let's say you want to cover the newspaper, so you go over it with some wax. A little more to make it thicker. Fuse it very carefully because I don't want to remove too much of this wax. So I go a little higher. Make sure it's shiny so you know it's fused. Blend it well or not, depending on your taste. And once this is cooled, I'm going to show you something else that you can do. Now, let's do the mesh.